Hi everyone, welcome to another gardening video. What I am doing in the first part of this video is measuring out, weeding, and planting the section for the sweet peas, the sugar snap peas. You can see them in their little container there at the middle bottom of the screen. That little black thing that flashed in the bottom corner, that was the camera cover. It was so incredibly windy, which you can kind of see with the peas moving quite a bit. We've had a lot of wind and storms over the past month. So I changed my mind here. I am going to water the corn seeds before I start, and then I water them again when I leave. And this way, the ground has time to absorb the first set of water and then the second set also. And it just, I was watching these and I put a lot of water on there. And I don't think out of those 4 rows of 10 seeds each, 12 only grew. I don't think it's because I didn't water them enough. You can see I'm putting a lot of water. That's a lot of water. And then I water them again before I leave at the end. What I do think as I was watching this is I was checking because I saw a couple seeds come up to the top. I mustn't have covered them well enough. So I'm also pulling out some weeds at this point, but I was checking to make sure that they were all covered, and maybe not all of them were, and maybe some of them got eaten by animals. That would make sense. There isn't much else to eat at this point. There were dandelions, grass, and then here I am putting in some really delicious sweet peas. I was excited to do this. I was excited to get these in. Spoiler alert, in a few videos, I don't know if it'll be the next one or the one after that, you are going to see me put fencing around my plot because I'm tired of the bunnies eating all my stuff. But I don't know if it's going to help. It might not. They may be able to just push underneath the edge of it. I'm hoping that the way the grass grows around the very edge, it'll sort of block the view so they can't see the gap underneath the fencing to get in there. So far it's been okay. My broccoli and my broccolini, those you'll see probably in the next video. I have these little cages I've talked about that I bought. They don't seem to they seem to be working very well. The kohlrabi, I didn't put anything around, so those were out, and I may think 1 or 2 of them got nibbled on, and then one of the onions, which you'll see later in this video, got nibbled on. So that was why I did finally just go ahead and put some removable fencing around. Here I am getting into the swing of things. I'm stopping too much. I gotta dig a lot more and then lean down and do it all in one shot. But here I am just weeding a small section. I'll get going in a minute. You'll see. Here we go. I think I dig quite a bit now. Well, we'll watch together and you'll see. Now, I did have an issue with my camera. I've told you this in the last one. I did not realize it had stopped, and then I started it. Well, I guess I did realize it stopped. I didn't realize I either pressed it twice when I went to start it and it stopped it right away, or I didn't press it enough. So you're only going to see me weed half of this section, and then it'll miraculously jump to being fully done all the way across. When we get there, I want you to keep your eye on the ground, which is right behind my back foot that you can't see right now, sort of where that green stake is still in the ground. You are going to see a massive stone, and I haven't even uncovered all of it. I gave up. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not planting anything right there, so it is what it is. I was like, it's a sign, just leave it. It is the part that I uncovered has to be more than a foot long, because I can step on it and there's more than inches still ahead of my toe, and then it extends from, if my heel is by the black fabric, it extends under the black fabric, which is why I gave up trying to dig it out. Alright, so I've done about half of this section now, and this is why I like the little rake. You can grab those things of soil with the grass in it, by the grass by the roots, and then just sort of like dig it out. This is where I'm figuring out there's a big stone there. I'm so sad that it didn't catch that, but there you go. You see that big white spot? That is a massive, massive stone, and it's ridiculous. All right, so by the magic of movies, that entire section got done in seconds instead of the, I don't know, 45 minutes it probably took me. And here you can see me plotting out where to put the twine, the stakes and the twine. So the peas are between 7 foot and 9 foot. And I want the stakes obviously sort of in the middle of that. I think I put them 8 inches in, so 7 foot 8, and then 9 foot minus 8, which will be what, 8 foot 4, I think. I did have to move that a little bit because, again, there's just that, you can't quite see the angle, but it's right near the end of the rock, so I had to sort of get a little creative on that. But now I'm also using them. This is what I love these for. They're a straight line and they're 3 foot. So you can see this is a 6 foot across because 2 of them fit so nicely. And they do a nice job of marking the line. So now I'm just going to put the stakes in, and then we are going to build some, I don't know, levels for the peas to grab onto. This is what I did last year, though I only had 1 row of stakes. I didn't do 2. And this is the twine I used, and it worked really, really well. You are going to see in a few minutes that it did not work as well this year. I don't know if it was just too windy and there was nothing to stop the wind from hitting. I mean, I went back a few times before I went on vacation, and I was trying to help stand the peas up so that they would catch onto the twine, but the wind was so strong it was basically tearing their little tendrils off of the twine, and they were all like pushed over. I also think that because it was so windy, I needed to put these rows of twine further down. I did 3 rows on each, and they're probably a good, I don't know, 6 inches apart. I probably needed to put them lower and put them about 3 inches apart. I've got something else that I'm going to use. I went out actually earlier today and bought it because I was like, how can I do this without using bird netting that the birds could get stuck in? But yeah. Oh, maybe I did 4 rows. I can't even tell anymore. I went down and back and down and back. So I did 4 rows. And then I do the second set. Now, the way I do it is I sort of just make a loop and tie it off on the bottom. Then the next one, you go around it to the right on the first one. Then the second one, you go to the left, and then the right, and then the left. So you're looping around clockwise, anti-clockwise as you go across. Then what I did this night, which I shouldn't have, is I didn't cut the string and tie off each individual level. I just sort of wound it up the end. You'll watch me here. I just sort of wind it up the stake there. And I went back, I don't know if it was the next day or 2 days later to water. It was probably the next day. I got the scissors out and I cut those pieces that are on the stake that in between the rows, and then I tied off each row individually. It definitely makes it's just better. So this is what I lost. I lost the actual film of, it didn't record me planting the peas, but you see I've got them all in. I was so excited. I was like, thumbs up, look, I've got them all in. Yay! I was so excited. And then this happened. Yeah. Yeah, this happened. I didn't realize this was so long. I thought that was... There you go. All of the twine is snapped. The peas, I thought they were all completely eaten. It turns out there were 2 little things left. They have mowed the grass, but they have left... You can see it much better in this bottom right corner. They've left several inches worth that's higher than the rest, right? So this is 20 foot long by 10 foot across, and I'm doing this whole thing by hand, probably 6 to 8 inches of whatever's growing there. A lot of it's grass and clover on this particular day. It's a lot. It's a lot on the back to do this. There's probably an easier way of doing it. Oh, there were a couple people there this day. This one lady brought her strimmer from home, but she has a house. So the only reason she's using the garden plot is she doesn't have room for squash and she wants squash plants. So good for her. She's got about, 6 or 8 plants in right now in her two plots. So 20 to 22 feet. But yeah, this was why I put the black fabric down, is because this happens. And then they keep mowing and leaving an extra few inches, and it ended up being 1.5 feet. Anyway, that's what I figured out last year. I'm doing good this year. I've had to do this a few times. The fencing I put up, spoiler alert, it's going to make it much harder for me to do this. Alright, I am almost there. It kind of sucks to... Basically, the first 20 minutes is getting this entire thing done. It sucks. It's not what I want to be doing when I'm up there, but it is going to make sure that it's not overgrowing and the seeds aren't blowing into my plot, so... Alright, just making sure I got that last little bit. I don't know why I started right by the peas and not in the corner. Now I'm just going to rake a bunch of that stuff out of the way so I can see that I got it all. I just wanted to make sure I hadn't left any tall sections. Alright, this section went much faster than I thought it would. This entire section between that first 3 foot, which I've obviously been watering for the corn, so all of the grass is grown, and then where the peas are. This hasn't been watered, right? It hasn't been trampled down. I haven't done anything there yet. So this was actually quite easy to break up with that rake. So I went ahead and I broke up the entire section about, I don't know, would you say 3 inches down? Those rungs on that rake are about 2 inches, I think. So it probably went a little deeper. And then I used this other rake, which you can see right here. This grabs the leaves and the roots, and it kind of pulls that stuff over. And the heavier soil, the tines on the rake are not as strong. This took a long time, and I'm sure there's a better way of doing it, but I got this done. Excuse me. I probably could have cut more of this section out because this takes a long time. Oh look, so this you can see in that top right corner. In between, I didn't put most of that in the video, but I had spoken to the gentleman a few times during this whole 2+ hours I was there. I'm like, I know this dude. Like, he looks so familiar. I'm like, I've never seen him here before. And he came over and he scared the heck out of me. Oh my gosh, that was the funniest thing ever. I was laughing so hard. He looked mortified, and I'm like, that's totally fine. I was like, that was funny. You can laugh. Oh my gosh, I was so scared. I realized instantly. You can see my hand coming up like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm laughing at this point. It was hilarious. He very kindly came over and offered to use his tiller to do that section that I hadn't gotten to yet between the squash and the pumpkins. And he did where I had put the original pumpkin seeds because none of them grew, and this has been over like a month at this point, so they weren't growing. So he did that for me, and I am so appreciative. I had mentioned the lady had come with her strimmer to do her section. She was putting the squash in there. I obviously don't have a place. I don't have a garden at home, and I don't need power tools for the garden like a strimmer, but that would be a very good option. She, after he had left, she came over to me and was talking to me, and she was like, "Is that so-and-so?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, that's where I know this guy from." A local group that I sometimes go and listen to. So that was I was so appreciative. I didn't do anything today with where he has tilled it. You do have to go through and kind of break it up and take out, big chunks of grass and whatnot. But then we're going to try a little bit of new editing here. I am going very carefully around the 12 original corn plants and pulling this all out. This took a lot longer than I'm making it seem with this editing. Hopefully this editing is okay. I didn't do any fades between them because, not much. And then I skipped that little bit between where the corn plants are and where I'm sitting, but I did do that part and then finished off with that. All right, we are going to plant some onions. So that gentleman who did the tilling, he had way too many. He planted the ones he wanted in his section, and he came over and said, "I have these left, would you like them?" And I said, "Sure." So instead of radishes, I now have yellow onions that are growing. And at first I was wondering if they were going to take. They all seemed a little delicate, but they are doing good. So that is going to be exciting. I mean, I like an onion. This is how I left it. You can see I do have to get in and do the edges. And then right there at the bottom left, the squash plants were there. So that entire thing took me more than 2 hours. I was so tired. So I came back the next day to do the actual planting. So the first the video you've seen was me where I was weeding. That was on a Saturday. This is a Sunday morning. And I honestly told myself, it'll only take half an hour. It'll take you 30 minutes. You're just going to plant a few things. Y'all, I was there an hour and a half. I was there for an hour and a half. I don't know what I did. I know what I did, but I don't know what I did. Do you know what I mean? I just... Anyway, what I'm doing right now, and this is the part where I think when the tape measure, the actual metal piece, fell over, I think it wasn't quite aligned properly at the very bottom right, in line with the two white stakes, because the white stake that we can see in the front here, it's tipping in, and then from my vantage point, and then the grass is growing into the corn section, I was about 3 or 4 inches off. It needed to be moved to the right as we're looking at it. But it's all good. I fixed it. It's not gonna, it doesn't matter if they're directly north or south in straight lines, does it? It just matters if we grow the food and if it works. So I was fixing it so that I had 3 feet for the corn, because I had originally, when I planted the corn, I didn't look at my little chart and I gave myself 2 feet. So I was happy to make it 3 feet. And then I'm using some of the copious amounts of rocks that I have dug up to mark every foot. So 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, 7 foot. And then I don't know if I did 8 foot, but I definitely did 9 foot. Although 9 foot is basically where the end of the measuring tape is, and you can still see the rock there. I think I put another really big rock on top of that rock, although it's certainly not as big as, it's as big as my hand, not as big as the rock that's still in the soil there. I did not weed the section where the new peas are going to go. I think right around this weekend I planted more peas. I planted 20 and 12 of them grew, but 2 of them ended up not growing past sprouting, which was a bit weird. So I have 10 plants, plus there's actually one tiny little plant there that now has a little cage around it and seems to be growing again. So we'll see if we'll see. We'll let it keep growing for as long as it wants to grow. Here I am using those trusty green stakes again to make myself some nice straight lines. And then once I actually plant the seeds and put the soil back over it, they become not so straight, but whatever, good enough. The point of these is really that plants need space so that their leaves don't overshadow each other and they have space to grow. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done in a way that, you know, works. I feel like I could have planted the onions a little closer together. I'm not entirely sure. I've never grown onions like that. I've grown onions that are much more like spring onions. And then I don't know what I was doing here with the corn and the line on that other side. I did go and get a little trowel, and you can just see at the bottom of it this hoe that is there. And it's going to help me dig the lines for the seeds. But I decided to try and transplant this corn. Was not sure if it would work. It did, which is really nice. But I decided to put all of the 12 plants from the original set of seeds. I wanted to put them all together in 3 rows so that they can sort of cross-pollinate. They should be tasseling at about the same time. There are a couple of them, which you'll see in a later video, that are just much larger than the others, and I don't really know why, but they are growing nicely. And yeah, I'm hoping that I have them, instead of having them in a straight line, I have them in this little square formation. That'll help the tasseling and the pollen cross-pollinating each other. Hopefully I get some corn out of them. That was me kind of deciding if I wanted to transplant this one last plant over, and I did decide to. So I dug that trowel. I don't know if it's from the city or if someone else has left it in the shed. It was bending every time I tried to dig any soil out. I was getting really nervous it was going to break in my hand. I ended up going out and buying my own trowel. I have that little fork, that 3-prong fork, and that is, I want to say Friscar's, and it's great. It's amazing quality. I love it. I didn't find the matching trowel at Home Depot, so I bought a different brand. I don't know what I bought. It was probably just the Home Depot generic. Anyway, now here is what I am using this hoe for. As you can see, it does a really nice job of just sort of doing that. Then I was trying to keep them in line with each other, and I realized I ended up making, like, the corn that's growing is in 3 rows, and I was kind of making 3 rows to do the new corn seeds. And then I added sort of like a 4th row above those first 2 rows. Anyway, I kind of moved that 3rd row over so it wasn't quite as squished. I think it was just trying to get it into the 3 feet versus, you know, squishing it into 2 feet. But then I did end up putting about 5 seeds in down the side of the 12 that are there. I don't think those grew. And then I lost a little footage doing the second side, but as you can see, I've got 2 types of carrots. I've got some turnips. I don't think I should. The Farmer's Almanac corn is the one I used the past 2 years, and it's super delicious. So here I am again. I'm making it. I thought that having them in a square formation where rather than a straight line, I've read that that does help, so we are going to find out. Those are growing as well. I think I have about 12 of those plants. I do not remember which carrots that is, whether it's the orange ones or it's the multicolor one. They all taste the same, whether it's a purple carrot, yellow carrot, or orange carrot, they all taste the same. They taste like carrots. So there's me taking a little break. I got up too fast, and after the 2.5 hours on the Saturday, I was starting to feel a little dizzy every time I stood up. I need to drink a lot more water and just be really careful. 2.5 hours in the hot sun is a lot. And if you're not used to it, which I'm not, I'm getting more used to it now, but definitely was not really as used to it even 3 weeks ago, I think this is. So that row is the turnips. And I put a lot of seeds in. I feel like I've had really bad luck this year in terms of percentage of seeds that actually grew. I've definitely got some carrots, but I would have expected more. I do wonder for the carrots if it's too hot. They might be one of those, some seeds need to be planted when it's still cold out, and I don't understand the whole mechanics about it, but it might have just been too hot. But I might have planted them too deep. But I do have some, so I'm going to give it another week and see how many sort of show up, and then I don't know, I might plant more turnips, I might plant more carrots, I might throw some radishes in where the other stuff didn't grow, because obviously I have the onions where I was planning to put the radishes. I did put actually... No, I'll tell you. I did plant something in one section, but I'll tell you when we get to that video. It's not in this one, it's in a future one. I just planted them this morning. So I decided to throw some more mini pumpkins in, and I'm glad I did. I was like, let's just give it another shot. So I put another 6 seeds in, and I got one little plant in each of the from each of the 3. I put 2 in each hole, 3 holes. So I've got 3 little plants, and that is exciting. And now my other thing that I'm excited about is this hose. It is purple. It coils up into a small section. It is 50 feet. You'll see me try all the different jets to see what is the best. The water pressure is not doing so well, and we aren't really sure why, because we have good water pressure in town, and it's just not. It's just pitiful. There's a tap in the shed that gets turned off over the winter, and we're thinking that it isn't fully open or something, but I don't know which one it is, because there's like 6 different taps and stuff in there, so it's kind of like half pressure. Alright, and that's a wrap, folks. I'll see you on the next one.